All right. So welcome to our first ever Day of Debates tournament. This is round one, part one. We have two parts to round one. This is going to be the first part. We split basically. There's basically 16 debaters in this tournament. We have 8 debates between the 2 days of the 12th and the 19th. So next week is the last part of round one. And today we begin with Just Jim and Hyperintensionality. And they're going to be debating moral realism is true and hyperintentionality is taking the affirmative.
Yep, that's correct.
It's going to be, and the format is going to be 7-minute openers, 3 rounds of 5-minute cross examinations, and a 3-minute closer.
Wait, I've got a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, does the opening statement have to be 7 minutes? Or
no, it doesn't have to be 7. No, it could be any, as long as it's not over. It could be under 7 minutes. Yeah. So if it's like 2-3 minutes, whatever, it doesn't matter. As long as it's below 7 minutes, that's just the maximum.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're ready to begin. And hyperintentionality, we'll start your timer whenever you say your first word.
Can I can you just give me 1 second? I want to get a notepad up so I can just take notes while we're going through.
Yeah, it's fine. Just let me know when you're ready. Oh, also, Marcel, I'm just going to drop you so then that way we could just clear the board. Okay.
Let's just go.
Everybody like and share the live while we're waiting for hyperintentionality to get ready.
Yep.
So let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, okay, I think I'm ready.
Okay, you ready? All right.
Yeah.
Then. So we'll start your timer whenever you say your first word.
Yeah. Alright, so now I'm going to be defending moral realism. I take moral realism to be the view that moral statements are true facts, that at least some of these moral statements are true, and that the truth maker for these statements are not an agent's agreement with them. I'll provide 2 arguments in favor of this position. The first argument I'll give is an argument from moral disagreement. So it's a simple argument. It's just premise 1, if moral realism is false, then there is no real moral disagreement. Premise 2, there is real moral disagreement. And then conclusion, therefore, moral realism is true. By disagreement, I'm referring to 2 people holding 2 different truth claims that are mutually exclusive or contradict one another. Right, so for example, if John believes the sky is blue and Jack believes it's red, right, then John and Jack disagree because the sky being red, obviously, is mutually exclusive with it being blue. Yeah. And just by real, I'm just excluding illusory disagreement. Right, so it seems clear that moral disagreements does in fact presuppose that one of the facts is objectively true. Or, sorry, oh yeah, that's right. Whereas the other is not, right? To see this, right, first consider that this agreement presupposes one of the statements being true, as per how I've just defined it here. Right, and then secondly, consider that if the truth is merely subjective, right, so it depends, or the truth value, no, sorry, the truth maker is an agent's agreement with it, right? Then the 2 people are not truly disagreeing, right? It's merely illusory, because when John utters a moral statement such as, stealing is wrong, right, it'd be logically equivalent to, I agree that stealing is wrong. And then when Jack utters that stealing is wrong, this would be logically equivalent to, I disagree that stealing is wrong, right? These statements clearly, in this manner, do not contradict one another, right? Because there's no contradiction to say that John agrees with something, whereas Jack disagrees with it, right? So therefore, if there is disagreement, then the truth isn't subjective, in which case it's subjective, meaning moral realism is true. Right, premise 2 just seems evident from our everyday experience. Right, we treat ethical disputes as something truly substantive. Is that how you say it? I think so. In fact, they make up some of the most large and ongoing disputes that there are, such as whether or not abortion is wrong. Right? Unless we have any good antecedent reason to think otherwise, we should accept that there is real moral disagreement. Therefore, both premise 1 and 2 are plausibly true, meaning that by modus tollens, moral realism is true. Okay, the second argument I will give is the argument from epistemic facts, which just goes as follows, right? It's again, the way it's presented is just simple, right? There are objective normative epistemic facts. Premise 2, if there are objective normative epistemic facts, then there are objective moral facts. Conclusion, therefore there are objective moral facts. By normative epistemic facts, I'm referring to facts concerning what we ought do to obtain reliable beliefs and to be rational, such as if one has no good reason for believing P, she ought not believe P. Okay, so now the most clear reason for believing that these facts exist is the consequence of denying it, which is self-defeat. That there are no normative epistemic facts, but I have no reason for believing this is true. This obviously gives us good reason on an epistemic basis to accept that there are such facts, right? These facts are also very plausibly objective, right? It doesn't seem that facts such as if one has good reason or no good reason for believing P, she ought not believe P. Right? It doesn't seem it has its truth maker be the agreement of an agent, and moreover, if they were subjective, then anyone could just create their own ridiculous normative epistemic facts, such as there's a blue unicorn on my red desk and I'm rational in believing the moon is made of cheese. Right? It's obviously absurd. So we should accept that they are objective and non-hypothetical. Yes, so, and then, so given premise 1 is true, we can move on to premise 2, which is, well, probably more controversial. So I'm just going to list 3 ways in which epistemic facts seem to plausibly presuppose or be connected to moral facts. Right? So the first is that normative epistemic claims such as that we ought not lie in scientific inquiry seems to overlap with moral claims, such as that we ought not lie, such that they are best understood, arguably, as moral claims. The moral claim that accepting or respecting intrinsic value, such as aesthetical value, is virtuous, right, seems to suggest that the practical reasons to respect epistemic value would also be virtuous and would be tied to this moral claim. Okay, and then epistemic justification in cases seems to be sensitive to moral considerations. Right? For example, if a ship owner inspects his ship to ensure it's seaworthy, he does not inspect it well enough, it seems he's not epistemically justified in believing that it's seaworthy, and therefore has some moral responsibility if passengers die, but if he does inspect it enough, then he is epistemically justified and therefore would be morally innocent. Right, thank you for that. Yeah, I need to say thank you for hosting this, thank you for hosting me, thank you for my interlocutor, and thank you for all the mods.
And that would end your round?
Yep.
Okay, great. So that concludes the opener for hyperintensionality. Jim, we'll start your timer whenever you say your first word.
Okay, thank you. Well, as already stated, the proposition for today is moral realism is true. As my opponent already mentioned, right, part of his thesis, he falls under 3 commitments. First of all, that when moral statements are uttered, we are asserting that the propositions are truth out. Secondly, that some of these propositions are going to be actually true. And the third commitment is that truth of these don't depend on any kind of agent, right? Whether they feel or decide that they're true, but they're somehow grounded in some stance independent moral fact. However, I'm going to argue the opposite, right? The opposite position, that this view of morality, or at least moral discourse, is just fundamentally mistaken. Even though this discourse may be meaningful and useful to our human life, it does not anchor to any kind of independent facts out there in the world. And the anti-realist thesis explains morality without actually inflating our ontology and without positing strange metaphysical entities or without even leaving us with unsolved epistemic mysteries, right? And I'm just going to quickly give 3 critiques that fall under the major families of anti-realism. And together, I think that these a work to dismantle the realist position. First of all is going to be kind of the non-cognitive challenge, right? Non-cognitives argue that in moral discourse, these moral propositions aren't aiming to state any kind of fact at all. When we make utterances like, generosity is good, we're not actually reporting some stance independent property, right? We're just expressing our approval or, recommending some kind of attitude, right? So this moral talk functions more as cheering at a sporting match or describing some kind of course of action, right? The realist, though, assumes truth aptness, right? But the non-cognitive easily could show that what looks like truth aptness can actually be explained by some kind of like logical, by the logic, of our expressive practices, right? So it's going to be up to them to actually demonstrate, how these statements are actually reporting some type of objective fact in the world. The second challenge could come from like the error theorist camp, right? Suppose we grant for the sake of argument that moral statements are truth apt. This still doesn't save realism because many error theorists like Mackey and Joyce, they're going to agree that moral statements purport to describe some fact, but they're going to argue that none of these statements, all of these statements are false actually, because these facts just don't exist, right? Mackey reminds us that these objective moral properties are going to be unlike anything else that we see in the universe, right? And so my opponent is going to actually have to demonstrate what are these type of facts that we see in the world that exist, that he's pointing to, that make propositions truth makers. And finally, the third challenge that he's going to have to face is, that from the non-objectivist camp. Even if we hold to cognitivism and we hold that, we are aiming at truth, well, why do we need any kind of stance independence to make these things true? Non-objectivists are going to argue that truth of moral statements are going to be grounded not in something objectively in the world, but in human practices, our rational procedures, or even our cultural frameworks. So on this view, moral truth exists, but they're going to be indexed to our shared practices. There's no need for this kind of metaphysical, unnecessary anchors. So put together, right, the non-cognitive is going to deny the semantic foundation of realism. Error theorists, even though they accept the semantics, are going to deny the ontology, right? And non-objectivists further are just going to deny that they're stance independent. Each one of these undermine the realist position. And so the challenge that my opponent faces is that if he wishes to establish the truth of moral realism, he's going to have to do more than just gesture at some moral experience or our sense of objectivity. They're going to have to specify what that ontology is. They're going to have to provide a way that we know what these truths are, what epistemic methodology we have, right? And they're going to have to show how they're indispensable to explain moral claims. If they fail to meet even one of these barriers, their case collapses. So tonight, I'm not simply just saying I don't like moral realism. What I'm doing is I'm showing that that there are multiple coherent philosophical anti-realist positions that explain our moral practices without the extravagant metaphysics of realism. Now, until and unless my opponent can demonstrate the existence, accessibility, and explanatory indispensability of these stance-independent moral facts, the proposition before us, moral realism is true, should just be rejected.
Great. And that will conclude the openers. And then we're on to cross-examination. Hyperintentionality, you are the affirmative. So you cross him first.
Wait, so what do I do in a cross?
So you could either further explain your position, or you could ask questions to Jim. Whatever you want to do, you could do whatever in your time. You could do whatever with your time. And when you ask him questions, you can always reclaim your time if he's if he already made the point, or if whatever you want. So
Okay,
so you
how long do I get?
Yeah, you got 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll start whenever you say your first word.
So, Jim, I mean, what do you think about the disagreement argument? Do you not think it gives us some reason to reject non-cognitivism or error theory, for example?
No, I don't think so. I think either under thesis of non-cognitivism, there could still be moral disagreement, right? You could take something like the notion of quasi-realism that holds to some notion that we're not really aiming at saying some proposition, right? We're just expressing what we feel, but we're overlaying some type of linguistic framework such that the language seems to be real, right? You could even do something like this other new notion of expressivism. I forgot the name of it, right? But there are non-cognitive.
Hybrid?
No, I think it was like
Supervenience?
No, I'll get the name later. But there's a newer notion of expressivism that aims to address how we use the language in such a way that we're trying to express something that's real, even though we're not, right? So even under the non-cognitive view, we could still have moral disagreement. But I think that the moral disagreement argument makes a case for it being anti-real, right? Because we understand that the disagreements are going to be relative to where people live, the views that they have, their upbringing. So there's psychological and sociological explanations why there is this disagreement without having to kind of burden or anchor these moral claims to some kind of robust or real ontology.
Yeah, okay, so I just want to start with the expressivist part you were talking about, right? So, like, even though, right, I mean, it seems to me like even though if you want to adopt these semantics with your expressivism, right, it still would just be illusory, right? There's no real disagreement happening there.
What do you mean by real here?
Well, I mean, I clarified it in my opening. I said it was non-illusory, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, but like illusory in what sense, right? Because I don't think that
illusory, right, in the sense that there's no, even though there's some apparent conflict in these propositions that are like affirmed by these two individuals, right? Once we analyze them, there is no actual contradiction or opposition.
Again, like I think baked into the language, right, that the realists use, be like real or actual, right, is to kind of like diminish the anti-realist position, because I think that there is a disagreement, right? There is a disagreement when somebody holds a position that X is wrong and somebody else holds that X is right, right? And we have a moral discourse, right? But I don't think that because we use the language the way that we do with probably other propositions that may have some truth maker that is objective in the world, because we use that language from a pragmatic sense, I don't think that the disagreement is less real or less actual because of it. I think that what they're trying to express, right, if we take this expressivist view, is that they have a particular attitude towards that action, and those attitudes are conflicting. One could be an attitude that's positive towards action X, and the other one that's negative towards action X. So I think there is some type of disagreement, but using this language of real or actual, I don't know that it really helps in the conversation.
I mean, I think I get what you're saying with that, right? But I mean, then again, you still don't really have like contradiction here, would you? Given there's no sort of propositions that you have.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think that there needs to be a quote unquote like a logical contradiction, in the sense that we understand it when we're talking about like, whether something is logically contradictory, right? But there could be what is understood as contradiction in the sense that like there's opposing views, right? One has one view that's distinct from the other, and that's what the discourse is trying to actually rectify or discuss.
Well, I mean, no, I'm not sure because. Anyway, so what was the second thing you were saying?
With regards to what particularly?
Well, you like talked about the non-cognitivism, right?
That's time, but you could finish your last question and he could answer.
Regarding the non-cognitivist, just that, without having to anchor what these propositions, the truth maker of these propositions in something robust in the world, we could still use this. And the other one that I was thinking is sophisticated expressivism, and quasi.
What's that? Was it?
Yeah, it's kind of like quasi-realism, right? Aim to kind of work with how we use the language, right? Because it's a language thing that we're doing.
Okay, all right, and that concludes Hyperintentionality's first cross, and now we're on to Jim's first cross. And Jim will begin your time whenever you say your first word.
Yeah, so like one thing that is interesting, right, is when we're looking at moral statements, the realist is saying that, like, look, there is some objective truth maker in the world. And so I guess my question to you is, when we look at propositions like, stealing is wrong, or, giving to charity is good, but what is that truth maker that is stance independent?
The truth maker that is stance independent. Yeah, well, I mean, under my view, it'd probably be something related to the divine. Yep. But I mean, if you want to avoid that, though, I mean, you could just say that it's similar to some, like, nomenological law, right? You want to avoid that strong commitment.
Right. So what was the first thing that you said? It's
Yeah, something related to the divine, right? But I said then,
okay.
if you don't want to have such a strong commitment, you could say it's like some kind of nomenological, or like analogous to a nomenological law, right? Or you could just say, I don't know.
Yeah, well, both of these are going to hold to different types of ontological commitments in the realist view, right?
Correct.
Because are you saying that are the truth makers of these, propositions, like the moral facts, are they going to be natural, or are they going to be non-natural? Like, which one are they in your view?
Which one are they? Man, I don't know. You'd have to define them.
Define what natural is?
Yeah, no, because I remember I read about those, but I forgot them.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, natural is going to just presuppose that, it's explicable by, like, our understanding in science, or by some kind of, like, science. Yeah, so something to that effect.
Yeah, then it wouldn't be. It'd be non-natural.
It would be non-natural. Okay, so, well, this presents that yet another kind of layer that the realist, particularly a non-natural realist, is gonna have to answer, right? Like, because now this commitment brings along with it things that you have to explain. For example, like, well, what's the causal relation of these non-natural facts to moral propositions?
It's the relation of the non-natural facts to moral propositions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'd probably say that maybe they even are reducible to.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Yeah, maybe they are reducible to. I mean, could one not say that, right?
Reducible to what?
The proposition.
Well, how can they be? Well, presumably.
It's true in virtue of themselves.
Right. When we talk about facts, right, we're talking about either some property or some state of affair, right, some relation, some event, right, something that's non-natural, right? So how do we link this stuff that is outside of the scope of, like, our methodological naturalist approach, and how do we what is that relation to that thing to, like, propositions like, stealing is wrong?
It's the relation. Yeah, no, I'm still not understanding the question.
How is it that it makes it true? For example, when we say, the fire is hot, right? Mm-hmm. The truth maker, the state of affairs, is that, like, presumably, this thing that we understand as fire, has some property about it that I'm touching, right?
I understand what a truth maker is, right? I just don't understand how you're relating it to this question.
Yeah, because presumably, if we're understanding truth makers in that way, and we're saying that, look, there exists some non-natural facts about the world, right? And these non-natural facts are the truth makers to moral propositions. Well, there has to be some relationship in the same way that truth makers like fire is hot, or it's the sun is out, right? These have a relationship to propositions that make them that bear the truthness of it, right? That are truth out.
So, so you're saying there needs to be like some kind of external truth maker, or like are you presupposing that it's extrinsic or not? I mean, actually, I don't think extrinsic would apply there because we're talking about linguistic terms, but just external to whatever we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, like in some way that it has to be if it's the truth maker, right? And the proposition is the truth bearer. There has to be some type of relationship between one and the other, such that the proposition stands independently true by this non-natural fact.
Yeah, I mean, can you just say it's part of the natural law or something along those lines? I see a few different ways you could go.
Yeah, then it would fall under a natural fact, not a non-natural one.
And that's time.
Hold
on, that's time. Hold on, that's time. Okay. So now we're on to the second round of rebuttals. So again, hyperintentionality. You have 5 minutes, and we'll start your timer whenever you say your first word.
Okay, what was that thing you were talking about with expressivism or non-cognitivism earlier? You said something else after your former point, right? Do you remember what it was?
If I remember correctly, I was saying that under a non-cognitive view, which is we're saying in terms of the moral disagreements, right? How does a non-cognitivist kind of reconcile moral disagreements if a non-cognitivist is not saying that we're even uttering propositions? But like I said, under quasi-realism or under sophisticated expressivism, these are kind of theses that try to look at the language that we're using in such a way that they're pragmatic in the arena of moral discourse, and not necessarily anchor us to some kind of like robust metaphysical ontology that exists in the world.
No, I thought it was something after that. Maybe I'm just misremembering, but I could have sworn you said something after.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well. What should I ask?
Well, I mean, you could ask either questions regarding the anti-realist position, or you could take this time to probably address something else. I mean, you could just question the anti-realist position if you want. That's the purpose of the.
I don't really know whatever questions they have other than the other argument I gave.
Yeah, so the other argument you gave was the one of epistemic facts?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, what do you want to say about that?
I'm asking you, first of all, do you believe in the first premise?
Yeah, I mean, like, it was kind of hard to write all of them premises down. Can you repeat premise one?
Oh yeah, just give me 1 second. Yeah, so premise one. And did you get premise one?
No. Please read.
Yeah, premise one, there are objective normative epistemic facts.
There are objective normative. What motivates that there are objective normative facts?
Epistemic normative facts, yeah. I gave the motivation in my opening. I mean, I think my accent probably made it hard to understand though.
Perhaps, but what do you mean by that they're objective epistemic normative facts?
Yeah, so pretty much just that there are facts, right, about how we obtain like reliable beliefs and being rational, right, that are objective, so such as the fact that if one has no good reason for believing P, then she ought not believe P, right?
Yeah, okay. Why would we hold that these normative epistemic facts are going to be objective?
I mean, there are two reasons. It's just that first of all, it just doesn't seem right that No, they have a truth maker on the agreement of the agent, and then the second was just that they were subjective, then anyone could just create their own ridiculous facts, right, that would be true because they agree with it, right? So if I agreed that if there's a blue unicorn on my red desk, then I'm rational in believing that the moon's made of cheese, right? I could just say that.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think like one approach may be from like an error theorist, right? An error theorist may say something that like
An error theorist about what?
and the way that an error theorist
Like, you can have error theorists about normativity in general, and then you can have error theorists about like morality, right?
yeah. So like well, the debate is about metaethics, right? So an
Yeah,
error
but
theorist in ethics, right, could say, right, that the same thing about like epistemic facts, that even though they seem objective, right, this just may be like some kind of cognitive illusion, similar to the way that we look at moral facts, right? It seems like we may be projecting normativity onto both epistemology and ethics here, right? When in fact neither are going to be objectively true, right? We could just think of them as like useful fictions, such that we could reason and we could cooperate in the fact, right? So an error theorist is just going to reject that there are going to be normative epistemic facts, right? So that wouldn't really motivate the argument from epistemic facts is not going to be motivating for an anti-realist.
I mean,
And that's time. Okay, so then we move on to Jim's cross, and we start your timer whenever you say your first word.
Sure. So I mean, I think kind of like jumping through, or kind of like still going through this this notion of ontology, right? Mackey brings up the argument from queerness, right? And so how are we? Why should we hold on to this kind of like weird ontology that's unlike anything else that we see in the world, under your view, such that they're truth makers for moral propositions?
I mean, I just deny that there are nothing analogous to these.
Okay, so then can you give like because presumably like the properties that this non-naturalistic fact has, right? It doesn't have, it seems as if it doesn't have any kind of causal relation, right? They seem epistemically opaque, right? What else in the world have those properties?
You mean, wait, you mean a parkway?
No, I mean like even in the notion of how do we know these things, right? From a epistemological approach, right? If they're non-natural, which means that they don't abide by like the nomology that we know, or the sciences, we can investigate them through like some kind of methodological naturalist approach, right? If we can't do that, how do we even know them? How do we even know what these facts are?
Yeah, well, I just want to talk about the first one first. Well,
sure.
So you said there was nothing, or there's nothing similar to these.
Yeah, just to clarify, that's what I meant by epistemically opaque. Right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd just say that that's false, right? I think that epistemic facts, right, all the normative epistemic facts that I've been talking about are analogous. So I guess then it would just delve into whether or not these actually exist.
Sure. Okay, so okay, so let's say you're saying that the ontology of these things are kind of similar to normative facts, but in your view, like, do you take that normative epistemic facts are non-natural?
Normative epistemic facts, yeah, I'd probably say, honestly, I think it's a tough one, but I don't know, because I think they only exist in the natural order, but...
Right, so then if epistemic normative facts are natural, and you're saying that moral facts are going to be non-natural, well, they're going to be distinct, right? So now we're not talking about the same thing.
Well, I mean, like, if we're just talking about, like... Am I allowed to take stuff back?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Am I allowed to take stuff back?
Sure.
Okay, I'll say they're natural.
So you're taking the position that moral facts are natural?
Yeah,
What are they reduced down to?
the natural laws.
Yeah, but what about like nomology? Art is going to
What
make.
about it?
Yeah. What about how is some natural law the truth maker to propositions like stealing is wrong or pro-choice is good, right? Like, what about like the speed of light makes that true or something? That doesn't
Sorry,
sound.
I didn't catch that last part.
Yeah, like what about some nomological law like the speed of light or gravity or something, right? Like what about these laws make moral propositions like stealing is wrong or pro-choice is good? What makes them true?
Yeah, so I mean, I'd say it's just grounded in like telos, right? Or the telos of things, right? Because that's what the nomenological stuff is grounding, right? And our natures are grounding, right? So, talk about, for example, stealing's wrong. Well, it's unvirtuous. It's part of our nature that we should build virtues. Thus, stealing would be wrong. Right? With abortion, it's part of the natural laws that it should develop, right? But aborting it goes against that, right? So therefore, it'd be wrong. So that's how we would explain that.
Yeah, but now you're faced with the is ought, right?
Is
Problem.
all.
Yeah.
Oh.
What about the world the way it is makes it such that I ought not steal or I ought to contribute to like the needy or something?
So you're asking, right? How would
That's time,
the
but you could answer that question. But that's time. Go ahead. Answer that question though.
I mean, well, I mean, I was going to ask a clarifying question.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I was just like, saying, right? So you're asking how we derive from the natural laws or laws.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't really have an answer. I mean, could I just say it's primitive? Or is it more of an epistemic question?
All right.
Is it an
I mean,
epistemic question?
that's time. Yeah, that's time. Okay.
Right.
So, all right, 5 minutes. There's gonna be a last cross examination, and we'll start whenever you say your first word.
Wait on, so is there another, is this like my last, or is it
Yeah.
like the last in
The
general?
last, your last cross examination. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I do, and then I go, and then closers.
Yeah, so what were we talking about? We were talking about natural law or something.
Yeah, I mean, last round of questions, you were asking more in terms of epistemic facts and how an error theorist would contend with that, right? I gave you kind of like an error theorist view.
Yeah, well, I mean, so the error theorist is saying, right, that these don't actually exist, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I
like,
think,
you're not going to take that these things exist. And in
how do you respond to the problem of self-defeat?
can you explain the problem of self-defeat?
Yeah, well, it's essentially just saying that, like, if you believe there are no of these truths, or these normative epistemic truths, then you'd be saying that the paradoxical statement, I forgot who originally like proposed this whole paradoxical statement things. It's like Quine or something, where you have like, it's raining, but I don't believe it is. Right, these paradoxical statements. What the self-defeat objection is saying is that, well, if you're denying the existence of these, then you're saying that it's true, right, but you have no good reason for believing it to be true. So you seem to have some self-defeat, right, because you're affirming it, even though you have no good antecedent reason.
I have wait. So just to clarify, it's saying that like it undermines itself because it contradicts the.
Well, I mean, we're not necessarily talking about like logical contradictions here. We're more just talking about, right, it's paradoxical.
Okay.
Right, or it's self-undermining.
Yeah, can you give an example of how that like plays out? Like in what way? What does it mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give an example I gave earlier, right? So just an example of one of these paradoxical statements is, well, No, it's raining, right? But I have no good. Oh no, it's raining, but I don't believe that it is. Yeah, that seems paradoxical, right?
Sure, but like what?
And self-defeating.
Okay,
Right, so we're saying that that's self-defeating.
but why would that be self-defeating for an anti-realist?
They say that there are no normative epistemic facts.
Um,
Yeah, well, I mean, because they'd be rejecting like just having reasons in general for affirming certain things, right, and having beliefs, right? They'd just be denying,
I mean, like,
like rationality and that kind of stuff, right?
sure. I mean, but this seems like
So
something
they're
that
gonna be rejecting that they have this rationality for the belief itself, or so that's why it's not a contradiction, right?
yeah.
Because you can utter it even if like you don't have justification or you're not rational in it, right? But the issue is it's sort of self-defeating, right? It's paradoxical.
Well, I mean, I'm not too sure that that's a very like strong objection, right? Because the anti-realist could just be a fictionalist about this stuff, right? And they could act as if like these moral or epistemic norms are going to be real, just because they're useful in the arena of moral discourse. But that doesn't commit them to like now having to accept some type of stance independent truth maker for them, right? So like when an anti-realist is debating a realist about this, if they're taking some kind of fictionalist approach, they're just playing within that practice, right? Much like I don't know, like if we're just playing chess, right? Without actually having to believe that the bishop or the knight or something actually have metaphysical existence, right? It's something's
Yeah.
happening. So I don't know that that's really a cogent defeater to the anti-realist position.
I mean, if you go about this like pragmatism, or like it seems like a pragmatist. How do you say pragmatist?
Fictionalist.
No, I'm talking about like saying they're good just because they're like useful.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Like was is it pragmatist? How you pronounce
Yeah, I
it?
believe it's pragmatism. Yeah.
Yep. So I mean, if you're gonna like adopt pragmatism, the issue that I think you're gonna have. Oh, is my time up?
Yeah, time's is up. You can finish the last sentence.
Yeah. The issue with like pragmatism, right, is you're still not actually. It seems you still don't have rationality in this, right? Because you're using these things, right? Even though you don't actually believe them to be the case, or you don't believe they are authoritative in any way. Right, so you're just
That's
appealing to things that you don't believe.
Sure.
Oh, sorry, is that my time up?
yeah. That's your time. You just had that one last sentence to say.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So Jim,
Yeah.
it's gonna be your last cross. We
Yep.
start whenever. Yeah, we start whenever you say your first word.
All right, great. I mean, like, just to finish the response to that, right? It's like I don't see that a problem, right? We do that a lot within our life, right? Being fictionalist about things in order to have like discourse. So not seeing how that is much of a problem. I think like maybe one last line of inquiry, right, that we could do is even if I grant you like cognitivism, and even if I grant you some type of purporting, stating facts about the world or something, right? Why is it that like I have to hold to some objective moral, fact that makes these propositions true when I could easily explain this stuff, why we have disagreements, why people have particular stances. I could easily explain this stuff, through psychology, sociology, or evolution. Like, do you have an example where positing objective moral facts explains something better than the anti-realist positions do?
The anti-realist positions. Did you say?
Yeah.
So you're asking me if I have a like somewhere where it explains it better?
Yeah, I mean, like from the realist point of view, right? Holding on to some type of objective moral fact. Do you have an example where positing that these things exist, right? These moral facts that are either natural or non-natural, explains something better than, an anti-realist's thesis would?
I mean, I don't know if my epistemic argument would count.
Not necessarily. I mean, I think I was able to address the epistemic argument from an errative perspective.
I mean, I still disagree with that, but I've only gone past that now, though.
Okay. I mean, let's see.
Well, I mean, I'll just say one thing about the fictionalist thing you're saying, right?
Sure.
I mean, sure, like, we talk about fictionalism all the time, right? But this, it's obviously, well, it's clearly different when we're talking about, like, epistemics, facts themselves, right? And what's the ultimate justification for our beliefs and rationality.
Okay. All right. So I guess 2 minutes left here. So, would you agree that if we're evaluating two hypotheses, one that has less ontological commitments and explains the data better and is more parsimonious, would be favorable over one that isn't?
Would we favor what, sorry?
Would be favorable over one that is not that way?
It seems so, unless we have some other reason.
Sure. So then, if we're looking at the realist and the anti-realist hypothesis, and we see that the realist is kind of like making additional commitments in terms of like the type of ontology that they're holding on to in their world, either natural or non-natural moral facts that are distinct, right? And it doesn't really have any explanatory power, right, towards understanding moral proposition and moral discourse. Why should we, attach ourselves to that?
Yeah, man. I think I gave the disagreement argument and just the two arguments I gave, man.
Yeah, but I don't think that those arguments actually aim to explain. They're just showing that your thesis is more ontologically bloated, right?
Yeah, they are sort of. I mean, if we're looking at the structure, right? Yeah, they're deductive, but when we're going into the premises and the justification of those themselves, we do have some appeals to like the explanatory.
Yeah, but like the anti-realist positions are able to explain all of these things or objections that the realist has, right? These questions without having to have these like weird bloated ontology.
I mean, which specific?
Like,
are you just referring to like all of the arguments provided? You quantifying over all of them?
Yeah, I mean, like, for example, when you provided the argument for moral disagreement, like different anti-realist positions are able to address why there is moral disagreement without having to appeal to some type of like, robust ontological metaphysics, right? We're talking about norms, like we're able to address that and how we have, how different anti-realist positions consider epistemic norms, right? That they don't necessarily therefore lead to moral norms. So we're able to address all these things without. Sorry.
And that concludes your time. So we're on to closers. Hyperintentionality. We'll start your time. We'll start your timer whenever you say the first word.
Yeah. Wait, what do I say in my closer?
You just, you reaffirm what you have been stating. See what you came out like. The conclusion to the argument.
Yeah. Well, I think you did have some pretty good critiques of the disagreement argument. I think the epistemic argument ultimately wasn't touched on enough. I think we should have touched on it more. What else? I think you did make some good points with the whole, sort of queerness that Mackie brings up in the whole ontological stuff, right? But yeah, I'd sort of just say that we have good enough reason, as I've provided, to favour these commitments, right? I mean, I guess you could say it's analogous to when the realists, like metaphysical realists, or even though they have to posit like infinite amounts of entities, right? They have good enough reason to adopt this, and I think I've given good enough. But yep, that's time again. I want to thank everyone.
Okay, that concludes your closer. All right, Jim, you have 3 minutes, and you can start your closer whenever you say your first word.
Great. Well, I want to thank everybody for the first debate. You're echoing a little bit. Thank you. And so as we close this debate, right, my opponent has tried to make a case for moral realism and that moral realism is true, that moral statements are truth apt, and that some of them are true, and that, you know, the truth maker are some type of objective, independent thing outside of us. But however, I think that when pressed with a lot of these questions, his story faltered, right? First, from the non-cognitivist challenge, right, we're able to demonstrate that like moral talk is not about stance independent facts at all, right? They function as some type of way to express our attitude towards different actions, right? Secondly, from an ontological view, right, error theorists challenge it stands untouched, right? If moral statements purport to describe objective facts, then those facts would be, you know, what Mackey calls queer, right? And whether they were natural or non-natural, like I tried to press my interlocutor here, he was a little bit unsure, he wasn't sure. So this kind of demonstrates the world just seems unclear, right? We don't know what they are. And nonetheless, even if they were clear, how do we even get to know them? There's an epistemic gap that happens, right? Realism just staggers under these three unresolved burdens, right? It cannot clearly specify what these objective moral facts are, and it can't show how we can reliably know them at all. And it can't demonstrate why they are explanatorily indispensable when, you know, under anti-realist position, things like psychology, sociology, evolution explain why we have these moral practices. So in essence, the realist is left just making promissory notes, right? They're left saying there are objective truths, even if we can't say what they are, how we know them, or what they do. And really, that's not an argument. That's kind of a leap of faith. So tonight, I hope I demonstrated that on the one hand, a theory that's weighed down by these mysterious entities and unanswered questions, and on the other, we have a family of anti-realist positions that each explain moral practices without inflating our ontology. And so the anti-realist position is a lot leaner, a lot cleaner and truer to what we actually can justify. And until the realists, like my opponent, can prove otherwise, until they can meet the burdens that they themselves set, the proposition moral realism is true must just be rejected.
All right, and that concludes the debate. Now we're moving on to judges. Congrats both. You guys both did a good job. Whomever wants to start and give their critique about each debater. Any one of the judges?
Yeah, I think Mitch wants to start.
To say that I want that's cool. Okay, yeah, well done both. That was really good. So briefly, on the openers, you both did fantastic. Very concise, very to the point. You set up expectations. I think one criticism I had from Jim was like you introduced, I think, the explanatory role of moral language, like just at the end, whereas that was maybe not motivated, but you both really well. And then on cross, Jim, yeah, it goes without saying, hyperintentionality. You just referred back to your opener quite a lot. You didn't motivate you very well. Your questions also gave Jim like a good opportunity to motivate his worldview. His view. They didn't really expose any like weaknesses. So yeah, the cross goes to Jim each round, and then the close also goes to Jim.
All right, thank you, Mitch. Flenser Friction.
Yeah, I can go. Can y'all hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So I think a lot of the observations were similar to Mitch. I thought the openers of both were very strong. I thought maybe stylistically Jim did a little better, just all around. But I thought Jim had a clear strategy kind of going in, especially with respect to the crosses and kind of what he wanted to get out of that. And it seemed like Hyper was just kind of winging it most of the time. And that was, I think, especially evident in the close. I also agree that instead of motivating the argument, there was a lot of referring back to, well, I said that in my opening. And so I don't think it was really clear to the audience exactly what part and how. I think that's pretty much what I got.
Okay, thank you, Spencer. And Friction?
Yeah, okay, so for the openings, well, I actually preferred Hyperintentionality's opening in that, well, he gave some clear arguments in support of realism. I think that could have been put a bit better, but there were arguments presented. The argument from disagreement, and then basically the companions and guild style argument. And I preferred that as a content to the opening from Jim because, well, Jim just primarily meant as a challenge, really. It's just like, well, here's the sort of stuff that you'd have to show in order to demonstrate realism, right? You'd have to show, essentially, you'd have to show cognitivism, truth, and stance independence, more or less, right? That's how I understood it. There was a little bit thrown in the end there about explanation, but the opener was more a challenge than an argument against realism, to my ear anyway. But if I was judging it just on that, I might actually give it to Hyperintentionality, but of course I'm not judging it just on that. And throughout the rest of the debate, I thought Jim's points became fleshed out a bit more, and he made some arguments against realism, sort of like some queerness stuff, some epistemic stuff, and then a sort of probably the strongest point that came to completion towards the end was the argument, look, if this seems to be explanatorily sufficient, some of these anti-realist views, but not, but more simple or not really involving these extra ontological commitments, maybe we should prefer those. And I didn't think that was very well addressed. Getting into some of the details about how some of the arguments were discussed, yeah, I mean, I'd have little quibbles here or there, but I think just to sum up and not ramble too much, I think Jim did better overall. So I would give it to Jim.
Okay, great. So victories to Jim. Congrats, Jim. You move on to the second round.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate Hyper, my interlocutor.
And now we have time for questions. Anybody want to come up to ask anybody a question? You can request up. And the poll is up, by the way. You can vote who you think won.
Hey, good job, Friction.
Right now, Hatim, I swear.
Great deliberation by Friction and Friction only. You guys need to step it up, Fletcher and Mitch. Seriously, motivate your views more.
I was taking Mitch's lead. I didn't think we wanted to get into the details of our notes.
Yeah, I've taken extensive notes. If I were to read them, but yeah, if you want.
You think I took notes? I didn't take notes.
You took Mitch's notes.
I'm going to bed. Good night, everyone.
You're taking part.
Yeah, thank you for judging.
On a serious note, I think the purpose of these debates is also for educational purposes, and as judges, you owe it to the audience to explain why a side won in more detail than I gave this round to X, I gave this round to Y. You know what I mean? Like, just take notes from Friction.
What's the argument for that?
I love how you got up here just to criticize you guys. Oh man. Well, I guess I'll just have to ask. I'll just say this because I was going to say this to Hyper, but he left. I was going to say that I was going to ask him why he didn't press the clear normative implication of the queerness argument, right? Which is that we should adopt theories that don't entail queer properties as opposed to, theories that do, right? Which is clearly has a right.
He did, right? Jim got him to backtrack because he started with non-naturalism, and then Jim got him to revert to naturalism because the kind of companions in guilt argument kind of backfired on him because he gave like naturalist. Yeah, sorry, go on, Jordan.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, why didn't Hyper push on? Because one thing he didn't do is Jim made a lot of normative claims in the argument, right? And I think a real missed opportunity for Hyper was he could have pressed on those very claims, right?
Yeah.
I think that was I just wanted to point that out as a missed opportunity. How do you think you would have, if Jim, if he had said, look, when you're talking about, burdens and you're talking about, the queerness argument, there was something else he said, I don't remember, but how do you think you would have responded if he had said, look, those are epistemic claims, right? Those are grounded in epistemic norms. So when you rely on them, you're implicitly relying on the epistemic norms. And if epistemic norms are something like a matter of attitudes, why should I accept those? Those aren't maybe the attitudes that I share, right, with you. So if we just have this kind of fundamental disagreement about, we just have different attitudes, I mean, I don't know what your theory of epistemic norms would be, but.
Sorry, quick question. Are we, what's the schedule tonight? There's another debate, right?
Yeah, there's another debate at 7:30 Central. So in like 15 minutes, roughly. It's going to start the next one. Yeah, we have 3 more debates.
You have 3 more debates tonight? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, I think I knew that.
So, 1:15 in the morning here, so I'm going to be up late, I guess.
Easy cow, Mitch.
Hi guys, sorry, before the second debate starts, can I just point something out?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I would just like to say, first of all, I respect logic and rationale, but I'll just say I think there's a problem here because we're expecting to see morality as something that's objective or necessarily subjective. I would say it's pragmatic, it's just what works, because over time we've seen morality shift with different cultures and different norms. So it's a pragmatic thing. No, it's not a natural thing. It's not a personal thing. It's more of what's agreed upon. That's my argument in a nutshell.
Okay.
Do you have a question for just Jim?
You have any questions for anybody or for Jim? For the judges, anybody?
Do you know that this is a formal debate?
Hood?
I think Hood may have just come up here. Oh, okay.
That's why I stated that I respect logic and rationale, but I'm just saying without the subscribing to definitive realism. I'm just saying.
Did you hear the debate that just happened?
Yeah, I heard the debate, but I think it might be quite unnecessary because morality is not something that's subjective or objective. It's pragmatic. It's what works culturally. So trying to deduce if it's necessarily objective or subjective is a waste of time, is what I'm saying. But all due respect, I'm not trying to disrespect the purpose of the debate, but that's just my opinion.
Mark, you have any questions?
I got a question for Jim.
Okay.
You there? Okay, so would you say that like there is truth makers on the normative, like normative ethics level?
I'm not too sure. I really didn't. I haven't really looked into the epistemological side of that, so I wouldn't know without reading further.
Well, I really appreciated how you hit like a lot of your examples were like right along the classical like literature you'll find when you read into this. But so for me, like when I look at a normative ethical prescription, right, like stealing is wrong, right? That's always like conditional to me. Like there's no truth maker for that statement. So like not only am I on the meta ethical level, like a non-cognitivist, an anti-realist, and an emotivist, but I don't think that there's any way, even on the normative ethical level, to make a moral declaration without some kind of like just conditional axiomatic statement that you either reject or deny.
A particularist about normative ethics.
You can make any like normative ethical statement that's like objectively true either, is what I'm presenting. Like
That's meta ethics. The objective part is meta.
yeah, I understand. Yeah. I understand that that's meta ethics. I'm saying in the same way that there's no ultimate truth maker for meta ethics, there's no ultimate, like it's just a direct downstream effect. Since there's no true truth maker for meta ethics, there's also no truth maker for normative ethics. Would be my position. It's just going to be based on a condition. If stealing is wrong, like, and there's no way to ground that.
Had since her team came up and gave his critique of how shallow me and Flenser were. Well done, Friction, by the way. I'm not being shallow. So on the opener, you said that you were going to give 3 critiques, but then you kind of instead gave 3 positions in meta ethics. You gave kind of just general like non-cog positions like emotivism, expressivism, whatnot, error theory, and then subjectivism. So I don't know. It's not really a question, but rather a critique. I would say if you like, it was good to explain those points because they came up in your cross exams, but it was kind of like it threw me off a bit. I was expecting a critique of moral realism, and then I got 3 positions in anti-realism instead.
Yeah, that was one of my first notes, actually, Mitch.
Yeah, so
but I thought he did a good job of like shifting the burden too, so I kind of gave him credit for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, what I was laying out is that each of these anti-realist positions give a critique towards the realist position, and so the non-cognitivist is kind of undermining the realist position by having why assume truth aptness for moral propositions, which is what I kind of laid out. The error theorist, even if we grant moral propositions, is saying, well, why are there truth makers? Why do you posit that there are truth makers in the world?
And that's
yeah. So that was kind of like the critique that I was giving. How each one of these actually undermines. That's why the challenge was: look, in order for realism to stand up, right, you'd have to answer all of these.
Yeah. So that's what I would phrase that as, right? Is the requirements or the burden, like Francis said. Like you did a great job at setting the your opponent's requirements, what they had to meet in order to kind of overcome these other positions, but they weren't like critiques. That's all. It's maybe like a minor point when we get down to it, but
yeah, Hyper could have really pressed on that, and he didn't. Like, he really just accepted the terms of your debate, and the whole time it was just, in the cross was just on your terms.
So I have the scores of the cross are like pretty. Like I have.
You don't need to go over those.
Well, 90. Let's just say one of them is 90-20. So like 90 out of 100 to Jim, and then 20 to, and that was the best one from. So yeah.
Yeah, there was a definite decay rate going on from the opening to the closing.
My side of the argument?
No, for him, sorry.
No. Yeah.
I think yours got better as it went on, actually.
Hello, Jeff for Truth. You have any questions for the judges or the interlocutor?
Well, I missed that debate, but I guess, yeah, and you've been talking about it just a little bit in the last few seconds. I'm curious, and I saw somebody, Ross Ohl showed up and said who won. So maybe for anybody showing up now, just a quick summary of what the positions were and how the judges came to their conclusions would be good before you move to the next debate.
So I went first as a judge, so I can give my summary quickly. So round one, hyperintentionality was defending moral realism is true. He used kind of moral disagreeability or moral disagreement and companions in guilt with like epistemic facts being normatively real. Therefore, if normative realism can exist in epistemic facts, and it can exist in moral facts too. And then Jim gave kind of three positions in anti-realism, right? Non-cognitivism, error theory, subjectivism, and set a burden for hyperintentionality to meet. In the cross-examinations, they kind of asked, hyperintentionality asked for Jim's comments on moral disagreement, and his argument is like, what do you think about my argument about moral disagreement? Which I think was a very bad question to ask. Jim gave like good motivations for how moral disagreement can manifest under anti-realism, or how it can appear under anti-realism. Yeah, basically the cross examinations continued like that, with Jim asking really pointed questions towards hyperintentionality, and hyperintentionality really like asking almost for lessons in meta ethics. It felt after a while, so Jim won that round. And then in the crosses, in the closing, Jim summarized his position, showed how we demonstrated that moral disagreement can be accounted for under anti-realism, how companions in guilt is not a good argument, how you can just deny epistemic normative facts, and hyperintentionality said that Jim gave good critiques and then referred back to his opening. So that's my summary, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not going to add too much to that. I think what Jim did really successfully, especially towards the end there, was reiterating the frame from the beginning, which was there's an ontological cost that we're being asked to pay, and it doesn't seem like we're getting anything for it. Right? You're asking us to posit these things, and what's the result? So I think he kept hammering on that kind of throughout the debate, and I found that to be kind of his strongest point.
Well, I'll just make this comment. So, Mitch, I barely understood anything you said because of the words that you choose. And I don't know, people a lot of times, use these epistemic and all these big words that sound fancy, but most people don't even understand it. I'm a smart guy. I've got a Master of Science degree, but I don't speak like that. And most people don't speak like that. So I would think that most people had no idea what the whole debate was even about or what position they were taking, if that's the language we're using to communicate. So I'm going to debate next Friday, and I speak from a plain common sense language where I expect the common person to understand what I say. So
Well,
Yeah, I
Jeffrey,
think both.
you're debating. Yeah, your debate is going to be on. It's going to be about Jesus existing. So yeah, you wouldn't need to use the philosophical jargon that we would use for like moral realism. The debate that we're having next is the prompt that we have now, which is Jesus Christ resurrected. It's going to be up your lane, and you'll probably understand everything that's going to go on there.
I'm going to be here
I
listening.
don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, this
I'm not
is a debate on
convinced.
meta ethics, and I think both sides knew the jargon and the lingo, at least for their positions. I was a bit taken aback when Hyper asked what the is-ought divide was.
I would also like to add,
Yeah.
Jeff, this tournament's for money, and the people
Yeah,
are gonna
he
do
knows
what.
that. He knows that. He knows that.
Yeah, I'm emphasizing it. I know he knows it. I'm saying that they're playing not to necessarily woo over the audience, but to win money potentially, and they are aware that the judges understand them, so they're not really here to cater to the audience, but to win. If you
Okay.
feel what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, that's not my motivation. So I'm here to spread facts and evidence and to communicate to people. I don't care about the money. I don't even know how much money's on the line.
Okay, well, if you win, we won't pay you.
Except
I'm just kidding. No, I get what you're saying, though, right? Like, you jump into a debate about meta ethics, and you just come in and you're like, what the hell
Can
is going on?
someone? What does it look like on your guys' side on for the boxes? Because I'm
He
trying
might
to
not
get.
actually have live access yet.
I'm trying to get. Look, Timothy Norat. There's the person. Do you see the Do you see the icon that has the people on it? Is it Timothy Norat? He's like the next debater. He doesn't know how to get on here. Timothy, you see it? Click on that, and then you'll be able to request up.
I feel like that should be a prerequisite. Knowing how to maneuver your way around TikTok to even enter this tournament.
I think that he has a. I think he's mostly on Discord. So it's at the bottom of the screen. Somebody said the bottom right. Normally it says guest, and it doesn't say guest. That's weird.
It should say these two things, right? I mean, not two things, but
What
there's an
do you
icon
guys
with two
see?
people. It's an icon with two people, right?
The icon with two people. Yeah, the icon with two
Then
people, and you just request up.
oh yeah.
He is on a private account. He should be able to get on. What's going on?
Yeah, let's. I don't know, man. I want to see this debate, so hopefully he can figure it out.
I invited him up. He's just not coming up. I also invited you up, Tim. You're invited. There should be like
Yeah, he's
a
not on a
request.
private account. He should be able to come up.
Yeah, I invited him up. I don't understand what's going on. Timothy Norat, sir.
Let's see. There's somebody requesting.
Oh God, hold on, wait. I can't have the hold on. I got to drop somebody.
Oh, wait
Just
a
in case he
second.
comes up. Just in case he comes up.
Timothy's out of commission, and coming in as his replacement, sir.
Oh no, no. Totally kidding.
I'd still run it, sir. You know I would.
He's gonna hit you with the pliers.
Timothy, come on up. Oh my God, this is
Like
frustrating.
I'd still run my argument.
He's
against
literally
it. Wouldn't
in the
change.
comments.
Timothy.
You don't need enough followers anymore. You can come up with like literally one follower. I've seen people come up with one follower. Timothy, what is it telling you? I requested you up. What is it telling you?
Timothy, maybe come out of the app and come back in the app or something, bro.
Come back. You don't need 55. Do you need No, you don't need 55. I've seen people with one follower literally come up. We do have guest accounts if he can't get on.
He has 2,000.
But he's able to come up. He's able to come up because otherwise I wouldn't be able to invite him up. Right?
Maybe
you wouldn't have the option.
right.
Who is this guy? even got into like the hat of things when we don't know.
Yes, did it. Boom, boom, boom. He's in
There
here.
we
He's in here.
go.
Here
He's
we
finally in.
go.
He is
I'm
real slow.
excited for this
Congratulations.
And he
debate.
doesn't look like he's
Whoa.
loading. What is going on?
There he is. He's
There he
here.
is. There he is.
He's not loading. Oh, there we go. There we go. Finally, yes. Let's get started. Okay.
I'm
All right, I'm gonna drop everybody.
All right, see you.
Go ahead, Tim. What were we saying?
I had to disconnect and then like reconnect or something.
That's fine. As long as you're here. All right. Now we're beginning our next debate. Finally, this is great. Man,
Sorry about that.
I was like hoping that you get on time. This is great.
I was trying for half
Right in
an
the nick of
hour.
time. Huh?
He was trying for half an hour, he said.
Yeah, you were. I saw that you were trying for a half hour. Oh man. But I'm glad that we got you here. I'm glad that you made it. Okay, great.